Why that meeting felt like a threat. Understanding the SCARF model of human motivation. Why do some meetings drain us while others energize us? Why do we freeze at feedback, resist change, or feel threatened even in professional settings that are technically safe? It turns out that the brain doesn't differentiate much between physical threats and social ones. That's the insight behind David Rock's SCARF model, a framework grounded in neuroscience that explains how 5 key domains of social interaction can activate either a threat response or a reward response in the brain. Understanding SCARF is like having a cheat code for better communication, leadership, and collaboration. So, what is SCARF? SCARF is an acronym for 5 key elements that drive human behavior and emotion in social situations. S. Status. C. Certainty. A. Autonomy. R. Relatedness. F. Fairness. Each of these triggers either a reward or a threat response in the brain, just like food, danger, or pain. And once a threat is activated, our thinking narrows, creativity drops, and we become more defensive or disengaged. Let's walk through each one with real-world examples. Status. How do I rank compared to others? Status is our relative importance in a group. Even subtle shifts in perceived status can feel threatening. Threat example. Your boss gives critical feedback in front of your peers. Even if the intention is to help, the public nature of the critique can make you feel diminished and embarrassed. You're left off an email thread or a project kickoff. You begin to wonder, am I being excluded? Am I less valued? Reward example. A manager says, we couldn't have done this without you, in a meeting. That public recognition boosts status and reinforces engagement. A team gives you the lead on a high-visibility project, showing trust in your abilities. How to manage status. Praise in public, critique in private. Offer titles, roles, or micro-promotions that validate contribution. Ask for input. People feel valued when they're consulted. Certainty. Can I predict what's coming? The brain loves patterns and predictability. Uncertainty triggers stress, even if the unknown isn't necessarily bad. Threat example. Leadership announces an upcoming reorganization without providing a timeline or details. Anxiety skyrockets as everyone imagines the worst. A manager gives vague goals, such as, do your best, without defining what success looks like. Reward example. A project manager outlines clear milestones, expectations, and what success looks like, reducing ambiguity. Weekly team meetings are consistent and predictable, giving employees a rhythm they can rely on. How to manage certainty. Communicate early and often, even if you don't have all the answers. Use roadmaps, timelines, and what to expect documents. Set clear KPIs and feedback intervals. Autonomy. Do I have control over my work or environment? People crave a sense of control. When that's removed, the brain reads it as a loss of agency, which can trigger stress and disengagement. Threat example. A micromanaging supervisor who overrides every decision makes the team feel powerless. A rigid schedule with no room for flexibility reduces people to task runners rather than thinkers. Reward example. A manager says, here's the goal. I trust you to figure out the best way to get there. Empowering. Employees get to choose where and when they work, within reason. How to manage autonomy. Give people choices, tools, methods, schedules. Frame directives as options where possible. Would you prefer to start with A or B? Trust, then verify, don't smother. Relatedness. Do I belong here? Relatedness is about connection and trust. Our brains scan constantly for who is us, and who is them. Lack of trust or inclusion triggers the same distress signals as physical isolation. Threat example. A remote employee is excluded from spontaneous team banter or decision-making. Cliques form in the office, and others feel like outsiders. Reward example. A new hire is assigned a mentor who checks in weekly and makes introductions across the company. Team members share personal updates in meetings, building warmth and connection. How to manage relatedness. Promote psychological safety. All voices should be welcome. Build trust through regular, low-stakes conversations. Encourage collaboration over competition. Fairness. Am I being treated justly? Unfair treatment sets off intense emotional reactions. This includes how resources, praise, discipline, and opportunities are distributed. Threat example. 2 employees do the same work, but only one gets recognition or a raise, with no explanation. A team member is reprimanded harshly, while others are given passes for the same behavior. Reward example. A transparent bonus or promotion process, with clear criteria, increases perceived fairness. A leader owns their mistakes and applies policies consistently. How to manage fairness? Be transparent about decisions, especially around money, time, and recognition. Solicit input before setting policies. Admit when something wasn't fair, and fix it. When you address scarf needs, people feel safe, engaged, and motivated. Teams collaborate with less friction. Feedback lands better, and is acted upon. Change is easier to navigate. How to apply the SCARF model right now. In feedback conversations, protect status with private feedback. Increase certainty by explaining what happens next. Offer autonomy by asking, what would be most helpful from me? Build relatedness by connecting before correcting. Ensure fairness by using consistent evaluation criteria. In team settings, create rituals that foster a sense of relatedness, e.g., regular check-ins, celebrating team wins. Clarify roles and timelines for certainty. Offer flexible work for autonomy. Rotate leadership opportunities to balance status. Maintain transparency for fairness. In leading change, share the why early and often to support certainty. Invite people into the process to build autonomy and relatedness. Acknowledge concerns to preserve status. Apply changes fairly, and explain exceptions if they're unavoidable. David Rock's SCARF model reminds us that human motivation is profoundly social. We're not just rational thinkers, we're wired to care about how we're treated, seen, and included. If you want to lead more effectively, give better feedback, or create healthier teams, start with this question: which part of SCARF might I be triggering in this interaction?